Moot point, an issue which no satisfactory answer is found.
This is all a moot point.
The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf! Ma, the meatloaf!
Like a cow's opinion.
I've had it with this dump! We got no food, we got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off!
This is all a moot point. Doesn't matter.
Joining me in the studio is motivation, fitness, diet guru, Corey Taylor. Corey Taylor, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me.
You have one of the most fascinating lifestyles and stories just involving fitness, that I've ever encountered. You got to follow this guy. Let's get it right out the gates first. What is your Instagram? Because that's where you're most active on is Instagram with daily motivations and workouts and everything.
If you, Mom, this goes out to you too. If you can't find me, I will be on Instagram. It's at I am Corey Taylor. IAM COREYTAYLOR.
Did you just tell that to your mom too?
Look, if there's ever any worry, you go there first.
That's hilarious. She checks in on you on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah. So I met you in Atlanta. After I reached out to you after seeing you on the show Fit to Fat to Fit on A&E. And if you haven't seen that show, Corey was on season 1, and I enjoy all reality shows, especially about fitness and exercise and things like that, as someone who's interested in exercise and diet. But that was by far the most engaging to me that I've ever seen. I really haven't watched any more after season 1 because I met you, I watched the thing, and it was just that season was amazing. It's when. Well, you explain the premise because it's fascinating and how you even got involved in the project.
I love talking about this because it's still amazing. So long story short, they picked a few trainers across the entire country to take part in an experiment where we are literally going to live like a client for 4 months, meaning binging every day. Not to say my clients binge every day, but that's the extreme version of overeating.
So get to where they're at.
Yeah, so I had to gain basically 40% of my body weight in 120 days. That meant I had to eat 10,000 calories a day, every day. Some of y'all think that you're eating. You don't know what eating is until you go 10K a day. It was horrible. However, the goal was to get me so far from where I used to be that when I finally met the client I was going to help lose weight, we had that commonality.
Right, so you understood the struggle when you're going through it too.
And we can go in together. And that it was. I mean, by week 3, I was tired of it. By month 3, I was having chronic back pain, couldn't sleep, my blood pressure was going up. By week 4, I wasn't myself. But it showed me how hard it is to kind of get going, which gave me a little more empathy, but also made me very, very much more practical. So I was able to come up with a lot of ways to get her started that I wasn't able to think of because I'd never been anything less than my best.
Right.
So it showed me that. But I mean, when it was time to lose it, I mean, we both kicked ass. I was the most motivated fat guy you'd ever see in Atlanta.
I mean, it was amazing watching the show, seeing your episode. I remember going into the show and when they say it was with Drew Manning, right? Drew Manning,
right.
He's a fitness health guy. He's really great too, so you should follow him. I remember watching it and going, oh, man, they're going to eat 10,000. That looks like so much fun. Like, in my mind, I was like, oh, my God, you can just eat all day, eat whatever you want to. And then watching how hard it was for you to literally eat 10,000 calories a day where you were treating it like a job. It was a job.
I remember I kept saying to the camera, being fit and being fat both take commitment. I had to pep talk myself to finishing my food. Yeah. I mean, you're not even hungry anymore. You're just stuffed and you're bloated and you're hot all the time. You think you stink. And the next morning I wake up and they're like, whoop, 3 pizzas, 3 hot and ready's at your door at 8 a.m. And I'm just thinking, like, this isn't about me. This is about what I'm going to learn from and also what I'm going to be able to show others. I had to continue to remind myself of that.
I mean, I think it is a cool show just as much for the voyage that these trainers have to go through. Because I know what it did for me was knock out, like, oh, this guy doesn't understand what I go through. Like, I'm 238 pounds as of today. I was 243 last week. Look out. But, for me, I weighed 200 pounds 3 years ago, got into radio. That's a lot more difficult to find the time, make the time, and also eat healthy because there's food laying around radio stations all the time. People bringing donuts over, like, hey, here you go. and you're trying to stay in shape. And I remember thinking to myself, a lot of times when trainers yell at you or something or motivate you, you're like, you don't know what it feels like, man. Like you probably you live on celery and tofu or whatever, and you've never been less than 8% or more than 8% body fat.
Right.
And then to see like the struggle that you had to go through mentally when you're powering down all this ridiculous amounts of food.
Right.
You really, if you're the client working with you, there's nothing you can say. What do you be like? You don't know what I go through. Look at me. I'm going through it right now.
Now, there's, of course, still, people out there that are like, well, technically you were in shape entering it, so X, Y, and Z. But I think what you're saying is true. Most people at that point started to say, okay, well, Corey has shown me now that it's hard for everyone, but he's also shown me that anyone can do it. Also, on a deeper note, I hope you understand now that you can destroy or build anything with consistency. Look how easily I destroyed that body in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Look how I was able to rebuild it in 4. That, I hope, was the big moral of the story. It's consistency of what you want. You want to build a bridge. You want to build a body. You want to take it down. It's all about what you're doing day in, day out. So, again, being fit and being fat both take commitment.
Such a funny statement.
It
to hear.
is.
I think if someone at some point is like putting, oh, well, you wouldn't do it in shape. That's just someone making excuses because they want to find every rationalization to be able to say, oh, it's too hard for me, and this guy's trying to tell me he doesn't know my struggle. You're just putting barriers in front of yourself to
and
get
that
in the
person
way.
needs me the most. The person
Right.
that saw that and still makes excuses, you actually need me more than the person that saw it and got motivated, because that's you just doubting yourself.
Did it change the way you approach training to various people, or what is that process like when you meet someone new for the first time? Because you do all sorts of classes,
Right.
High intensity stuff. I think I've rarely done the same exercise twice with you, which I like because I get bored real quick of exercises, and then immediately as soon as I'm like, oh, this is new, and then 5 reps in, I'm like, yeah, let's go back to that one other thing.
Let's go back to sit-ups.
How did that change, or how do you approach meeting a new client every time and assessing maybe how much motivation they can take, or what type of variation they need?
Well, I'm very good at reading people's body, and I'm good at just kind of assessing exactly where they are. The experiment enabled me, I think, to have just be a little more creative with people who are just starting out. Because, like, for instance, I couldn't do anything but walk in the beginning.
Yeah.
So now, I might make someone a lifestyle plan where the first 3 weeks they don't even see me. Their goal is to take 10,000 steps a day. But that's just for them to understand that it's really an active lifestyle you have to adopt first, then have like that go trainer. So I think it just enabled me to kind of see what the best way to reverse engineer people to their after picture.
That's funny because I've actually, like, lately I've been thinking about this a lot, because being 30 pounds heavier than I would like to be right now, I'm going to try to run a half marathon in the end of May, which means I got to, on top of any other high intensity weightlifting workouts, I also got to get in just distance running. And I remember when I trained for a marathon 4 years ago at 200 pounds, I was running 13 miles no sweat at 6 miles an hour on a treadmill or whatever, 10-minute miles. And then I'll go in the gym now and I'll run, I'll average like 5.6 miles per hour for, to run 60 minutes. And it just bums me out. But then I have to, it's easy to get discouraged when you're not hitting the same results that you were when your body was different. But then I think back to, like, I remember you trying to climb a rope. On that episode, you were trying to climb a rope that you climbed in the first episode, or the beginning of the episode. You climbed this rope with just your arms, and then that first day in the gym, when you were 40% of your body weight heavier, you were trying to climb this rope, and I was like, "That's how I feel on the treadmill. Exactly how I feel on the treadmill right now. It just feels like I'm just hauling my huge ass up this thing.
It's just not happening the same.
No.
But the thing about it, the great thing about it is, though, with the human body, the human body is the only machine on earth that can get better over time. Literally, there are 40-year-olds who are in better shape than when they were 30 because they have that body intelligence. They develop their own rhythm. So it's kind of like to compare themselves to who they used to be. You're not taking into consideration the circumstances, the life you were living, the age. I mean, there's so many things that create your life at any given time in your life. It's best to kind of just see what you were able to do when you didn't know as much, and then be like, well, damn, what's it going to be like now that I have all of this hindsight, now that I'm a little more mature, a little more wiser. So I'm opposite. I feel like the older you get, the more able you are because you have like that body connection. So at 30, I honestly am in more control and am able to do more with my body than I was at 25. But it's only because like I know I've been in this shell a little bit longer.
Right. So how did you get into like being into fitness? I mean, you're clearly athletic. I know I've never really talked to you about your athletic background, and you grew up where?
So I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. Shout out to Muhammad Ali, rest in peace. I was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Shout out to Taylor Swift and Garth Brooks.
Yep.
So that's the foundation. But I was always into sports. I mean, my mom's single parent, so I played every sport. Every summer, every fall.
You got to be busy.
You got to be busy, and I liked it. But I don't feel I ever kind of maxed out. I felt like I would try different sports and I would stick around, but there was always something. Like when I played football, I was a little chubby, so I couldn't necessarily probably be as dynamic as a running back as I could, so I was playing fullback and stuff. Even at baseball, like I was kind of scared of the ball, but I liked contact, so I was a great catcher. I could throw him out, but when I got up to bat, it wasn't, so it wasn't until I really became a trainer that I started to like tap into my natural abilities. And honestly, I didn't peak until like now.
Yeah.
I just started dunking a couple years ago. My bench is just where it needs to be. Like I'm ready for the combine now.
Yeah, a late athletic bloomer. I was in the same boat. I played college basketball, and I remember high school, man, I struggled so much to build. I mean, I was strong in terms of just being able to play the game of basketball and rebound and like wiry strong kind of thing, but you put me in a weight room, and it was just embarrassing. Like during football season, everyone would be, oh, it's time for bench testing. And if I got 135 up on the bar one time, I was ecstatic.
I'm not gonna lie. Weightlifting became something I got good at. In the beginning, I remember being in the 8th grade. So much pressure we put on ourselves, and I was sad because I couldn't do like 95 pounds. And I remember as a freshman, it was 135.
Yeah, you got to get those plates on.
Right.
Those 45
then as a sophomore,
plates.
it was everyone was doing 225.
225. That's the benchmark.
I began to become more interested in the aspect of getting stronger. That I started to become more of a gym athlete than an actual field athlete.
Yeah.
To where like, when it came time to perform, I was cool. I was good. But if you saw me in the weight room, you'd think I was getting recruited by somebody,
Right,
and it was just, I really didn't check out of that until I got into personal training. Then I became more active, and I started to get faster and quicker. But for a good period of time, I was only validated by the gym. Like I didn't care my 40 time. I didn't care my lateral movements. If I could bench over 3, I'm winning in life.
See, my benchmark growing up athletically was, so I played football and basketball, but basketball was my sport. And I didn't care if I couldn't lift more than other guys on the team, as long as I could dunk. Because no one else, like we had a couple guys who were taller than me who could dunk, barely. But that was my one thing, was just explosive jumping, but off of 1 foot.
If you could dunk in high school, that's like having a beard or a mustache.
Yeah,
you pretty much, you're done here. Like,
I mean, I could, let's put it this way. I could dunk, and I did dunk numerous times in high school. I missed, hands down, more dunks than I ever came close to making. Because I was that kind of guy. I mean, I grew up on an island near Canada, and it was a super white school.
Where did you grow up?
Whidbey Island, Washington.
It's an island?
Whidbey Island, yeah. It's up near Seattle.
Who are you?
Yeah, just deep, man. It's deep, other side of the country. And so I would try to impress the home crowd all the time because it was a school of white kids.
Right.
So if you miss a dunk, that's as good as making a dunk in a white school. As long as someone...
The fact that you got up there.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you would go to lay a ball in or something, get fouled, and somebody would hit the net and the rim would break a little bit.
And they're like, the crowd go,
oh! They'd yell, so I
need to be at that high school.
Oh, that was great. I'd go in for a layup, right? And I'd hear the whistle blow because somebody fouled me on the way up, and I could totally make the layup, and instead I'd fire it off the back of the rim.
Oh, I was just.
Oh, you're lucky.
You're lucky.
You're lucky you got me. And the crowd would just, they'd be like, oh, you almost got you. And to them, it was just as good. Like the crowd, just as good as an actual dunk. And our coach one time told me, he's like, if you ever hear the whistle and miss a dunk again, I'm benching you for a quarter. Like
the whistle. So he knew what you were doing.
Yeah, he knew what I was doing. And I think because one time, like, some of the guys on the team were laughing at me. They're like, dude, you always do that. Every time you get a foul call, you just rifle it into the lights. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm trying to impress all my friends and the cheerleaders and stuff. And he told me, he's like, you're ruining your stats.
You're ruining your stats, right.
You got no tape right now for colleges because I can't send a tape of you. Penn State was recruiting me for basketball. I can't send Penn State a video of you just missing dunks but going to the free throw line. That makes no sense.
Right. That's pretty hilarious.
So did you play, like, how long did you play sports after high school? I think you played football a little bit, or?
So yeah, after high school, I was weird. I was a band geek and an athlete. So I got a full ride scholarship to Tennessee State University on the tuba.
On the tuba,
on
really?
The tuba, biggest
Wait, you were
instrument
a
out
tuba
there.
guy?
Tuba guy. I was small too. Like everyone that was like 6'4" or over 200 something. I was like lean, but I could blow.
How did you? How'd you get into the tuba? That's not the one that.
Well, in the 8th grade, I started on the trombone, 5th and 6th, hand-me-down instrument, and then my band instructor in the 8th grade needed a tuba player for a part, and I was lazy. I was like, well, there's no tuba players. I don't have to like challenge anyone for first chair.
Right, yeah, you
let
are.
Let me
chair.
just take it. And I don't know. I found a liking to it. It was different. It sounded different. You had to be almost. You had to think different to even play it.
Yeah.
So I got sucked in, and I mean, I just kept playing with it through high school. I got better and better, and I got really good. My tone was good. I taught myself how to sight read. I was impressing all of these high-ranking professionals in music.
In the tuba game.
In the tuba game, like the principal tubist of Nashville Symphony was my part-time instructor.
Really?
Principal tubist of another band was coming to me. I was like, at one point, I was on track to be like the first black principal tubist of the New York Philharmonic. Gene Pokorny was my idol, if anybody knows about that. But when I got to college, I was like, man, this is cool and all, but it's different. It's college.
Yeah.
It's a job. I didn't know I went from practicing 90 minutes a day to 4 hours with 2 separate instructors, and I'm transposing music. I got to learn to read in treble clef. It was a lot. So I ended up quitting the band and walking on the football team.
Really?
I made it off of just hard work, but I'm young. Then again, I'm like, holy crap, this ain't just football anymore.
Nope.
I gotta wake up at 6 and watch film. I don't have a life. I got if I'm not in study hall, I'm in practice. I don't know none of these dudes. I don't even care about them. But we got to be a team. Everybody's got egos. It wasn't healthy. So after I dropped out of school, right, I then went to semi-pro, and I played on a couple teams in Nashville. But then I'm like, I'm out here with 40-year-old guys who are clearly juicing, right? And they're just living in the glory. Some of them have already played and retired.
And or some of them are those guys, I'm sure, are just doing it for fun. But then you got guys that never made it that are using this.
They need film. They need that.
Yeah,
they need that, and they're trying
to.
And I was at middle linebacker, and I was eating up. Guards were pulling. He's like 6'4", 300. I'm going against him. I'm tackling running backs bigger than me. Mm-hmm. I was like, if I'm not going to play professionally, then this isn't a good outlet.
Your body.
So I just quit. I did away with all of that, and then I started working with athletes, and I started realizing, this is what I was trying to get to, because it was more fulfilling to see a guy that I train play on Sunday under the big lights than it was for me to like be on a bench hoping I get in, hoping my mom gets to see me. I felt more connected seeing what I invested into him. And that was kind of my trajectory. It wasn't actually until as of late that I wanted to step like back into sports. Up until recently, I really was content with just putting effort into other people and watching what they did with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And is that what brought you to Atlanta from Nashville? Was that just opportunities to train people, or
I went to Atlanta first as a model.
You did?
I did. Oh yeah,
man, you got so many weird little history things.
I've worn a lot of hats. Because when I realized I can do anything at 23, I was just like, well, let's just start throwing paint on the wall.
Yeah, Oh, I've been there, man. Comedy, radio, hosting, social work, teaching.
And Atlanta gives you everything. It'll let you scratch every itch until you find what's yours. But I moved there on that. I realized it was an empty industry in the South, at least for what I wanted. If I'm going to be commercial, I need to be struggling in LA or New York, not struggling in Atlanta. So I went to my plan B, which was this whole fitness thing. It was a blog at first, fitnesslifestyle.blogspot, and I just resurrected it, turned it into a business. I didn't even get LLC till a year later. At first, it was just kind of hustling, like training people in my complex. But then eventually, I got a business partner, Lizanne Destin, and we Jerry Maguired it. I was Cuba, and she was Tom Cruise.
Right.
And it was just 1 and 2. Really, even up until now, it's just in a different format because now she doesn't live next to me like she did. But yeah, fitness was a vehicle. Now, though, it's more about health and wholeness. So I'm really trying to educate people on mindfulness, meditation, living green. That, to me, supersedes the aesthetics of fitness, which at one point, that's all I was promoting. Look what I can do. Look how good I look.
Yeah, look how good you can look if you do the things that I want you to do.
But now it's about look how good you can feel at any age, at any profession.
That's funny. Do you think that was more – do you think it took you getting some age and some perspective and working with numerous people to get to that point? Or do you think that's a mindset you could have had younger? Because I've gotten to the point now in my 30s where I want to make sure that when I'm in my 40s that my joints aren't sore, that my back isn't hurt, that I'm thin, that I have good eating habits. And those are all things that I didn't use the excuse of I'm busy and I'm working and whatever. I'll get to that later. Like my father fell into that trap where he's always like, oh, you know what? I'll work out next. I don't have time right now, but down the road, someday when I'm done and retired, and then I'll focus on my health again. It's like, no, man, you got to do that through the process.
It's deep, and I'll give you the short version. I compare it to a running back who's new in the league and who takes every hit, runs people over, jumps over people, knocking helmets off. By the time he gets to year 6 or 7, there are things that he's starting to understand about the game that he does differently, to where he's not taking every hit. He's using the sidelines. He's using the 12th man. He's preserving his body. You go from wanting to max out to wanting to sustain. So I think age brings that perspective where you're focused on macro, longevity. Yeah, I look good now, but what can I do to look good for another 20? Or yeah, I'm a great 30-year-old, but what do I have to do to be an awesome 60-year-old? So I think age brings perspective, but then I also think society, we're moving into that because we're no longer showing off big dudes with 8-packs and stuff. Men's health, you got guys that have a 6-pack when they cough, kind of there. Or we're promoting people who have gotten off of medication. So I think as a society, we're starting to value health over the look of health. And so it's bringing people like me to the forefront. There's being more things talked about. I think subconsciously you're now going to start valuing how you feel versus how you look.
Do you think that social media, Instagram, things like that have played a role in this? Because there is a revolution I've noticed over people wanting to look good, wanting to show people that they're doing good. And I'm not talking about like Instagram models and stuff because there's that game. But then some of those people I don't even think work out. They just get butt lifts and stuff like that and whatever.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like people who want to almost like they hold themselves accountable because they have a small audience, if it may be a big one, but generally a small audience. But you want to keep yourself accountable where you're like, I'm eating healthy, I'm in the gym, I feel like that social media has just showed us that more people are trying to be healthy than we even thought.
There are more people trying to be healthy than we ever thought, but then there are also, of course, more people who are falling for the scheme of health than we ever thought. You have some people who are developing complexes because they feel they have to be perfect for Instagram, or they have to show off that they're serious because in some ways they seek validation from that. So those are the people that kind of should be hearing this interview, as far as it should be about what you're feeling like and how much better you were before versus what you're doing good at. Because you can't ever be perfect. Like that whole idea of perfection, it gets people caught up. They enter a program and they feel that they're not going to reach their goals unless every day is the best ever and that they don't make a mistake. When in reality, everyone makes mistakes. It's you continuing to try hard. You try hard at your health for 2 years. Those weekends that you cheat or that month that you were depressed, like that doesn't add up to 365 days in a row. So I like to tell people, like, done is better than perfect, and make a short-term goal a lifestyle change. Think about that.
I made the short-term goal I've made. Well, this week I've tried, a few days in a row I did, 2 workouts in a day. But the small goal that I've made is to try to, I know I can do, hard, big, high-intensity sessions, sometimes with you, sometimes just on my own. But my thing has been make sure you get some level of exercise in every day.
There you go.
Because the days that are hard for me are the days where I'm traveling. Like, for example, I'm back in Atlanta this weekend for St. Patrick's Day and for some events.
Is that this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend. For St. Patrick's Day and for a couple shows and for some events. But I know Saturday morning is going to be a real tough one to find time for exercise. So it's make sure on Saturday – my goal is you got to run. You got to do some hill. There's some hills by my house in Vinings. You got to run those hills for a good 25, 30 minutes minimum. Now, if I get crazy and I want to go 45 minutes to an hour, then good for me. Right. But at the bare minimum, I want to be able to look back when I get back to L.A. and say, you know what I did? I made sure that even on the road, I was getting into the gym. Because back in the day when I was really disciplined at it, gross hotel gyms on the road in Scranton, Pennsylvania, telling jokes at comedy clubs. I was on that broken treadmill.
Yeah,
like
it in.
Just they don't have. They have that. They have it's the initial elliptical, the one with like the bars on each side and they swing back and forth, where you look like one could break off anytime and stab you.
I know what you're talking about. This is something that I spoke to my housemate Will Thomas about, and I was saying is how you see yourself. I say, see yourself as an athlete and you'll live like one. See yourself as just an employee and you'll live like one. You will match the statistical category of whatever label you put on yourself. So, Brian, you walking around here acting like an athlete, thinking like one, it's the reason why you're living like one. It's the reason why you're making athletic choices. You're living a life as if your success is predicated on your health.
Right. That's an interesting way to put that. Because then it's like you don't all those decisions that you're making the healthier decision because if you take that mindset of I can't have this many cheat days in a row because then I can't do my job.
Exactly. So that's the thing. Create a scenario, whether it's in your mind or subconsciously, where your health, your wins and losses are predicated on your vitality. When you do that, you can't lose, and then there's no more trying. You're daily doing, and you're focused on the macro, which takes that pressure off of you to be perfect. Because you're like, there's a million more training sessions with Corey I got. There's a million more Saturdays to get it right. Honestly, I'm better by making a mistake because it's the less amount of mistakes I'm going to make later down the line.
That's interesting. I feel like people use that one imperfection as a reason to give up on something for a long time. Like,
they do.
You know, that day where you're like, oh, I went to the gym for 10 days in a row and then I missed 2 days and I'll get back to it next week. But it's like you don't have to. You just fall off one time. That's doesn't do anything.
That's the thing. Like, why are we like that? I all types of content created right now. Why are we like that? Why are we so able to give other people passes? Like, there are people that will let toxic people back in their life more times than they will continue to just finish the meal plan. It's as if they mess up and that means everything's negated. Like, I tell my clients all the time, if I give you like my online challenge, my vegan challenge, the 30-30, if it's a 30-day protocol, the goal is to get to day 30. I don't care if you get to day 30 with a C average, with a B average, or with the A. You're going to be better by finishing. People, they don't realize it. They're afraid of failing, so they'd rather quit than finish. But think about it. What part of your life are you perfect at?
Right.
Where are you making A's at? You hardly care about the job you're working. You hardly are even all the way in a relationship you're in. You hardly even take church seriously. Like, you're really not excellent in any area, yet you tend to be okay with that. So why, when this comes to yourself, do you have such high standards? It's unrealistic. Have the same standards for your health as you do for yourself. If you're able to give yourself a pass when you start a meal plan. It's the same thing's going to happen. You're going to grow along. But having an idea of perfection is the one thing that stops people, but subconsciously it's because they're afraid of failing.
That's interesting. It's like people look at their own life like, remember that game Chutes and Ladders?
Yeah.
Okay, that board game where they're like, okay, I got to get to the top. And then all of a sudden they'll hit a chute that only takes them back, like 2 spaces.
Like they lost.
Yeah, and they act like, oh, here, I got to start all over again. It's like, no, see, that's the problem. Now you're going to use that as an excuse for the next month, I'm just going to binge on chicken wings and pizza and stuff like that because one day I slipped up on my vegan diet. Easy, man. Okay, no one's judging you. No,
that person was looking for a way out the entire time. They were looking for one. And I have to be empathetic and understand that. That's why, I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to give you more information as far as, okay, this is actually how you're thinking and this is why this type of mind frame can save you. The choice is yours. But quitting or failing and then stopping because you failed, but then being in that same place for a month,
right?
That's the telltale sign. Like, okay, I get it, you messed up, but that was 3 months ago.
Right.
What happened since then?
You messed up one day, and then where did it go wrong for the rest of the days?
Exactly.
All right, so I want to talk about boxing because I've known you for a couple years.
Yes.
And when I moved out to L.A., I had the charity boxing match in Atlanta.
You did.
And I was kind of struggling because I was only training on the weekends in Atlanta. I was running out here, but I was getting in the ring in Atlanta or getting some punches in and then I saw on Instagram that you were boxing and I was like, oh, it's perfect. I'm going to hit Corey up.
Right.
When did you get so fired up for boxing? Because I've never seen you that committed to something for yourself in terms of you talking about wanting to be always helping other people, but then clearly boxing is something where, man, you'll just be in the ring. Like, I'm stretching, and you're like, I'm just going to get some movement in the ring. Some ring work. You just footwork stuff. And that's down at the Los Angeles
Sports Training Los Angeles. Yes. Honestly, it happened because I went into the gym. I went into Sports Training Los Angeles. My manager found a gym home for me. She thought it would be great. It's in running distance. I go in there, and I'm just hit with all of this energy from Coach Rose and his son Jonathan about just what boxing means to them, what this gym is, what the gym means for other people. I always kind of ended up being around boxing, and I knew it was a great way to burn fat. Also, it's a great alternative to my style of HIIT training, so I can go in between. But I don't know, man. I started to just mess with it and go through the motions, and I was noticing that there were certain things I had naturally that were translating.
Yeah.
I've never been considered tall, but I'm tall in the boxing ring.
You're tall.
I don't know if I've ever been called quick. I have quickness, but in boxing, I'm quote unquote quick, or I have reach. So
I vouch for that.
You know, there are all of these superlatives that all of a sudden I have. And so I thought of my whole journey up until this point as far as how hard I've trained my body, my mindset. And I was like, I've never maxed out. If there was ever a sport to take all my tangibles and put it into one, I was like, maybe this is it. And of course, just the more I go into it, 10,000 hours, the better I'm getting. And I have to sit down, talk with Coach. And I'm like, Coach, how far can I take this? He's like, son, you can take as far as you want. I say, I can go to the Olympics. He said, yes. If that's what you want, you're the type of guy that can do it. And it was born.
That's the amazing thing about boxing. And you're good. I mean,
Thank you.
Every time I sparred with you, you get better. And my black eye's almost gone from the last time we were in the ring where I blocked a punch with my face and you knocked me out.
There we go.
Not completely out. Oh, I'll own that. I owned it on the radio here. But you know what? Here's a funny story. I believed, and I gotta tell this story to my trainer Herb, and who was training me in Atlanta. The first time I ever boxed with him, we were messing around, and he was like shoving me to the ropes, and I just threw a wild hook, caught him, he was out. Just felt like he went out like I did.
Wow.
And I felt like, man, it's the training gods coming back around. Where then I'm messing around in L.A.
That's what happened.
And I ducked into a punch, caught that.
That was for you, Herb.
And you know what's funny about that? I talked about this on the air, on the New Guys show on AMP 97.1, but I've been knocked out, but that's like playing football or like crashing snowboarding or something like that, where you see stars, and you're like, whoa, and you're like shocked. I leaned into that punch, you caught me on the jaw, and it was just like boom, flash of light, and next thing I know, like I was on my knees buckled and I was like into the ropes, and I was like, whoa, I don't remember that there's a little gap in my memory where I don't remember, going from ducking, thank God I was ducking.
To the ground.
To the ground. And then the next day, I realized that I had like sprained both my ankles.
Golly.
Because when you start to fall, everything just goes.
Yeah.
So now when I watched this like boxing video the other day, and when someone gets knocked out, I'm terrified at like to see. Like, oh my God, don't tear your ACL. Don't tear because you're just, everything goes on that. But it is one of those sports, though. I've been kind of following it. I mean, that's not where I want to go. I love boxing as just a challenge. I like that it scares me. When I did the fight in Atlanta, the charity fight, it scares me. I like doing stuff like that. I also like how, it's a different fitness thing. But what I will say is, boxing is a game wide open for people who are just committed, and if in your 30s, if you're just committed and you get good, and you're just technically good, and you have you're quick and you're strong, that it's a sport where you can actually do some good career work in your 30s.
Tarver, I don't know if any boxing fans out there listening, he didn't start until he was 40. He went to prison and came out and started his career at 40. Mike Rashid, for those of you that follow him online, he just turned 40. He just turned pro. Coach told me I could revolutionize boxing, and not in a way where he's just gassing me up, but he feels that there's a new wave of athletes who maybe never had proper training in a sport, but can bring a lot to it. Kind of like hybrid football players, you see quarterbacks coming out playing both. He was saying, with the quickness, with the agility, and then with the temperament, because I'm a dog. With the temperament you have,
yeah, you definitely are.
You're willing.
You get a fire in your eyes when you're going for something.
It is like you're willing to go through those things that most people go through to learn, and so he said that's why you'll do well, and it has nothing to do with anything but just that. And then I talk to people and I watch, and I do understand there's a certain personality trait you have to have,
right? Where,
like you said, it is scary, but it's fun. It's fun to be that close to danger, but feel that you can control the outcome.
Yeah.
And then you get hit a couple times knowing that it won't happen again, because as soon as Coach hit me with a hook, I mean, the whole city of LA shook. It was
yeah.
But he didn't hit me again, because now I'm slipping for real.
Right.
I'm afraid of that punch.
You don't mess around.
And so to me, that AI is interesting. Like, wow, just put myself in there, and I will get to know everything I need to know. But I can't get there by watching it. It's so you're a true warrior. You really have to fight to be better at fighting. And I just think it makes me respect the sport more, but it also challenges me to be even more than I ever have. So,
I think boxing is one of the things that the Coach Rose is right. Like it was a sport where you have a lot of athletes who never boxed because boxing wasn't really accessible. There was a period of time in I'd say like kind of our generation of growing up in the late 90s, 2000s, where it just no, people just didn't box. There just wasn't a lot of boxing. And you had to go to a boxing gym.
Yeah.
And now boxing is becoming more mainstream where people are seeing it in different gyms.
It's commercial now.
Right.
They're boxing gyms they just do all classes.
Yeah, you can actually do classes. It's like it's trendy to do those classes even if you don't want to be a boxer. So I feel like that's a great point to say, like, you're a very good athlete. You're fast and you're strong and you've got good instincts in the ring. And it's like, oh, why not? I mean, you had those things anyway. You just had never put those to work in this other area.
Right. So that's what I asked myself. You know, I looked at what I was. I looked at my body of work, and you know, I have the body intelligence. I'm 30 on paper, but I feel like 26, 27. You know, I honestly, that's just where I'm at. My mitochondria is probably at 27. But I said to myself, why not? And then you think about real life situations. You know, I have an Olympic athlete that I train every year. Her name's Yelena Lachenka in Belarus. She's 34. I mean, you know, and Mayweather's 40. Tom Brady's 40. I have to be real with myself.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping me. There's nobody telling me I can't, and I clearly ain't done yet. So it's just like, why not?
Well, I mean, yeah, and you're at a point where, you know, Olympics is still, you're not pro yet. So Olympics,
it's the AAU.
You're going to catch, depending on the eras, you're going to catch people who, you know, 19, 20, 21 who are just, man, they want to go pro right now, but they can't, they want to also do the Olympics. So.
And think about that. I'm going to be in a ring with guys who want something different than me.
Right.
He's 19. He wants to go pro. I'm 30. I just want to know how good I am.
Right. Just, win a medal.
I just want, and maybe not.
Yeah, or just go.
I just want to go for it.
So what's your next step with boxing? Like, I mean, you're going to clearly keep training. I mean, you're in that gym every day.
I'm in the gym every day. I'm in sports training in Los Angeles every day. And again, to all the real boxers out there who are actually, you know, grew up with it and everything, that's my respect for the sport, is that it's not something I'm going to jump into blindly. I'm very humble with it. I've only been 2 months in. I've clocked in probably over, you know, maybe 1,000 hours. I'm working my way up to 10,000. You know what I'm saying? So it's day by day I'm learning. But the goal is to continue to get better under Coach Rose and the style that he's teaching me. And then I'm going to have to compete in a lot of tournaments this fall to build up my ranking, and then to make the U.S. Olympic team next year so that I can compete for those 1-2 spots and represent everybody.
Man, that's how I don't. How's someone making a documentary out of this?
Look, we need someone. If anyone's listening,
I'll pitch this to my brother. But if anyone else is listening,
you're talking about 18 months in advance. How many people would have liked to see Michael Jordan? And when he got cut from his high school team, get mad and go after? Or who would like to see Mike Tyson before he got with cuss, when he was just a teenager and he was still messed up in the head?
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Once I'm there, I'm there. My mind is different. But this is me as a beginner attempting to go for something crazy, and I'm willing to go through it. Like, I'm going to write about it. I remember in my notes last night, I was like, chapter 1. You know, I'm deep with it. I was like, chapter 1, Olympic journey. And I said, submitting. This takes me submitting to the process. I can't rush it. No. I have to do everything Coach tells me to do. I have to watch this and understand that I don't know anything. But you're telling me if I submit to it, if I literally let you guide me, you can get me there. Wow. Is that all it takes? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that in itself is so deep. How many people could really be where they wanted to be if they just submitted themselves to it? Yeah.
I mean, you're going into the process full 100%. I think the one thing I look back about, the interesting part about the boxing match that I did, probably retiring 1-0 in terms of, you know, boxing records, is that I did the best I could, and I worked as hard as I could given, you know, the life change I had from moving to Atlanta to Los Angeles. And coming off of, like, you know, 2 weeks of Christmas vacation where I was all over Europe just living life and enjoying things.
Right.
And I will say that there were points in time in the third round where I was like, I think I'm winning. I just want that bell to ring because, you know, you get to the point where you're tired and you're like, I probably could have worked out a little harder for this. And you're thinking so many things. It's an interesting thing. I'm looking forward to seeing you do your first amateur fight in the fall. That'll be fascinating.
I'm gonna tell you my secret, which isn't really a secret. It's just how I look at things. I feel that in this sport, the best thing I can do is be in the best shape of my life. I'm banking on Coach Rose teaching me everything he knows, and me being in the best shape I've ever been in my life. To me, that's success. To me, when I look at guys break down in the ring, it's conditioning. And I don't want that, Brian.
Right.
I don't want to be one round away from qualifying to make the Olympic team, and I can't dodge his jab, or I can't stick and move because I'm tired.
Yeah, your legs are tired.
I want to look. I'm obsessive. I'm watching all the trials from last year. It's some guys that go to that tournament, and it's clear they're prepared. And it looks like another sparring match to them. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to be so conditioned for that it's almost not even enough.
Wow.
You know,
I mean, the way that you approach things is, and there's no doubt you're going to be in the best shape of your life. You're in pretty good shape right now.
If nothing else, look, if nothing else, you guys, I'm gonna be in the best shape of my life.
All right, before we get out of here, so you're going to be in Georgia for what, 6 weeks?
I'm going to be in Georgia for 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to be operating out of Inferno Fitness. So that's actually in Covington, Georgia, 45 minutes outside of Atlanta. I'm basically, if you ever seen the show, The Prophet, where the guy comes in and takes over a business and elevates it. That's what I'm doing. I'm going in there. I'm going to be promoting, going to be recruiting trainers, different talent. I'm going to be abiding by a strict schedule. I'm going to be doing like 2 or 3 classes a day. I'm going to be doing meditation hikes at Stone Mountain. I'm going to dip into Atlanta. We're going to do a bike ride. We're going to ride from Atlanta to Alabama. It's 100 miles.
Yeah, that's a cool ride.
On
It's
the
out on
Beltline.
that Silver Comet Trail, right?
And then anything and everything in between, cross promotions, everything. But my main focus, is going to be Inferno Fitness in Covington and just overhauling her brand, like bringing my energy to her place and in hopes of it elevating before I come back to L.A.
That's right, Georgia. So everyone listening from Atlanta area, especially the folks out in Covington, I do know some people out there. Holler at Corey. What is the Instagram again?
The Instagram is at IAM Corey Taylor, COREYTAYLOR. Don't follow me if you're okay with how your life is. Only follow me if you want a lifestyle change, because I'm going to get in your mind.
I like that. And do that, because when Corey worked with me on The Burt Show, when we had the Billboard Weight Loss Challenge, Kara, we won clearly because his workouts are better than everyone else's, and we were more committed, and Kara wanted to win. So hit him up, and also Los Angeles Training Academy. Sports training?
Sports Training Los Angeles.
I cannot remember that.
Just say STLA.
STLA. That's way
go.
easier. All right, Corey, thanks for coming in and hanging out, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and I'll see you at your next workout. Don't forget to slip all the way.
Don't lean into punches, people.
Let's consider the secret life of the innermost nesting doll. Living most of her life in the dark, inside the other nesting dolls, she has plenty of time to think, if she could. Sadly, she has no brain. However, when an innermost nesting doll hears that Geico not only saves people money, but also has been providing great service for over 75 years, she thinks it's obvious you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. Pity the innermost nesting doll and her lot in life.